Okay, so here we are. This is the 13th video. We'll see if there's a 14th. It depends on, I guess, when Ryan actually sets his team up for the season. But this will be on my team. This will probably be the longest video of any of these videos on the draft because I'm going to go into my thought process as well as what was going on for me during the draft and why I did what I did, so to speak, as well as a little knowledge that I have in the NFL to kind of go along with that. So first, before we even get to the drafting part, my thought process typically in the draft beforehand is like I like a lot of knowledge. I like being able to comb through everything, and basically, I like to read. I like to read a lot and learn a lot. However, you also have to be able to be aware of where all of your information is coming from. You can't just like go cherry pick things and think that you're actually learning something. It's important to have some statistical analysis as well as be able to just, if you're going to really dig into something, really understand it. So for me, when it comes to drafting, I like to just go through more of the process of just learning about teams, less so than it is about like trying to figure out players and breakouts and schemes and everything. It is a lot of scheme heavy stuff, but I really do like to learn about teams and just get a feel for like what are they thinking, where are they coming from, what changed, stuff like that. It's really why I enjoy reading Warren Sharp's book every year. It's just very great, very well written, very deep statistical analysis. Anyway, not that we want to get too deep into the weeds with that, something that I basically came upon was that something statistically that I found really efficient. Warren Sharp has talked about this a lot. The most efficient things you can do for an offense is you can run a lot of play action and you can do a lot of pre-snap motion. Teams typically that do both at a high level are very efficient and very good offensively. This includes teams like the 49ers, the Rams, the Patriots, obviously all very, very heavy, good offensive teams. Green Bay is up there too, believe it or not, with LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. So, going along those lines, doing a little digging, we find that a lot of teams now run Mike Shanahan's old wide zone offense. Or how would we put it? Yeah, it's the wide zone offense, where basically they're trying to stretch a defense horizontally with the run game in order to open up passing windows vertically. So, obviously, a good example of this is Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco running out with Deebo Samuel and then being able to open up holes in the middle for George Kittle. So, pretty simple concept, not trying to like overwhelm you. What does this have to do with my draft? So going into the draft, obviously, I want to get players on teams such as this. But knowing full well that, Cooper Kupp is expensive. Allen Robinson will probably be bid up. Devontae Adams goes to Vegas under McDaniels. Obviously, we saw Sarah bid him up. I was aware of this. It's not like this is a surprise. So basically, I was just trying to hit players on teams that I like. Specifically, I want to trace this all back to the 2012 Washington Redskins team. On that team, Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, was the head coach. Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. But there's more to it than that. The tight ends coach on that team was none other than Sean McVay, who's now obviously the head coach of the LA Rams, and he just won a Super Bowl, so very happy for him. The quarterbacks coach on that 2012 Washington team is Matt LaFleur, head coach of the Green Bay Packers. And that brings us to the other offensive assistant on that team. It's none other than Mike McDaniel, formerly the offensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan, the now new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Why is that important? Well, I was sitting to see when Tyreek Hill might be going and what he would be going for. Tyreek Hill was the first player in the top 30 or so players that I knew that I wanted based off everything that I did this offseason. The reasons are because I believe in Kyle Shanahan's offense. You saw what Deebo Samuel did. We've seen what Tyreek Hill has done in Kansas City. Now, imagine, just for a minute, what Tyreek Hill might be able to do in a Deebo Samuel role. And before you say, oh, Tua's not as good, please remember Deebo Samuel did that with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Tyreek Hill has formerly, before Patrick Mahomes, had Alex Smith. Also had top 5 fantasy season that year. So, Tyreek Hill was a player who I thought I could get at a discount, somewhat of a discount, who might break out. And I think I was right. I got him at 23 overall for $43. So, what about it? So I like Tyreek. He's been a top 6 receiver 4 of the last 5 years. The only year he wasn't, he was injured for 4 games. Obviously, I already mentioned, people are saying, Tua might not break out. I'm not counting on Tua breaking out, per se. But Terron Armstead is the left tackle. I think he's the best left tackle in football, if I'm being completely honest. When he's healthy, he's the best. He's incredible left tackle. He was incredible for Drew Brees on those Saint teams. And they also got Connor Williams from the Cowboys to shore up the left side. And that's made a world of difference on the Miami line. That line was among the worst in the NFL. I think it is now probably around above average. Like, if the Bengals are around, 10 through 15, I would say the Dolphins are as well. Armstead alone makes them above average by himself. He's really incredible left tackle. The point is, I'm not counting on Tua breaking out and having a huge monster season, but I could see it because the way Kyle Shanahan sets up his offense, like he did for Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of like how Sean McVay set up his offense for Jared Goff. Those guys set up their quarterbacks in the best position to win using the 2 most efficient things you can, which is pre-snap motion and a lot of play action. In this preseason, we've seen Tua Tagovailoa use a lot of pre-snap motion and play action. He's been throwing deeper down the field. Why is that? Because he has longer to throw, and the play action draws up all of the defenders, and what do you know? Tyreek Hill is open deeper. It's not, it sounds difficult, but it's really not all that difficult once you understand the concepts. So the point is, I like Tyreek Hill a lot. I think, obviously, he's coming off a season where he had 111 receptions. People are expecting a downgrade from Patrick Mahomes because, we've never seen this Dolphins offense before. I'm betting on the unknown. I don't know if Mike McDaniel has learned under Kyle Shanahan. I assume so, since he's followed him for 10 years, but I don't know. Matt Nagy didn't learn anything under Andy Reid, and he got the head coaching job, so it happens. But I felt that watching all of the players go off the board, we watched We watched Cooper Kupp go for 64, Justin Jefferson go for 69. Obviously I saw Andre with Christian McCaffrey for 65 and Derrick Henry for 67. The only real deal I saw in the first 20-some-odd picks was Justin with DeAndre Swift for 51. Every other player, like even CeeDee Lamb at 42, I just felt like that's, you're paying about what I think he's worth. You're betting on a breakout, or you're paying around what I think he's worth. Tyreek Hill was the first player on my board who I had researched, who I wanted, that I thought would be underpaid, and I was right. I had him as a $55 player. I got him for 43. So I was just kind of waiting in the weeds. I wouldn't say I was counting on that happening. I was hoping to get a deal on someone, but through my research, I kind of figured it would be him, and lo and behold, it was him. And yeah, throughout this draft, I tried to make it a point to get something along that Mike Shanahan tree. So we're talking San Francisco, Miami, some Green Bay with LaFleur, the Jets, who have Mike LaFleur, who used to be under an offensive assistant under Kyle Shanahan, and who obviously is Matt LaFleur's younger brother. He's he's the offensive coordinator for the Jets. So still, a lot of Mike Shanahan influence on my team, specifically for that reason. So we saw, you can even trace it back to the Bengals with Zach Taylor. He was the quarterback's coach under Sean McVay. So, yeah, I was trying to find players underneath this specific offensive scheme because I thought there were a lot of young players. This is a very good offensive scheme with intelligent coaching staffs, more or less. So, the next pick, 27 overall, $54, Aaron Jones. So, I had just mentioned, hey, I like players under the scheme. Now, obviously, I'm not really a Matt LaFleur fan. I think he's more a product of Aaron Rodgers. But I will grant him this. Matt LaFleur has been better than Mike McCarthy by a lot. And why is that? Because Matt LaFleur understands how to use Aaron Jones. And we like that. We like that a lot. I haven't had to say free Aaron Jones since Mike McCarthy got fired. So, Aaron Jones is going into year number 6. Now, obviously, he's sharing the backfield more with A.J. Dillon, who got quite a bit of play last year. He got 212 carries and receptions combined, which is a lot for a guy who's supposed to be a backup. Matt LaFleur has talked about how Aaron Jones is 1A and A.J. Dillon's 1B. Obviously, Brian will tell you that he got A.J. Dillon at $25, and I got Aaron Jones at $54. I paid more than double for a guy who might be getting maybe, according to Matt LaFleur, 55% to A.J. Dillon's 45%, which is a lot to pay for a 10% upgrade. All of that being said, however, here's the reasons why I went with Aaron Jones. So I've always been high on Aaron Jones. Everybody knows that. Even back to his rookie campaign, which seems like a long time ago. I mean, he's 27 now. But I'm betting on his efficiency, and I'm betting on the loss of Davante Adams. People like Robbie have drafted Allen Lazard. Patrick has Sammy Watkins. I think Brian has, what is the kid's name? Romeo Doubs. They drafted Christian Watson. So, Randall Cobb's still a thing. Robert Tonyan might come back from ACL surgery. Those are all the pass catchers. I don't care about any of the pass catchers. When Davante Adams did not play, but Aaron Jones did, Aaron Jones got 20% target share, which came out to 5 catches and 55 yards per game. So, what I'm kind of saying is, I think, and to Brian's benefit, I don't think we're going to have, Allen Lazard replacing Davante Adams and getting 90 catches. I mean, I went in Robbie's preview. I said that wouldn't happen. I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to stay healthy. I don't think Christian Watson's all that impressive of a rookie. I think Romeo Doubs might be something, but, he's got to beat out, Randall Cobb, too. So, what I'm saying is, we've seen a lot in this preseason, a lot of double running back, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, and they split out Jones out wide, and they have Dillon in the backfield, and there's a lot of RPO with Aaron Rodgers. Those two are the key of the offense. And if that's the case, and Aaron Jones is keeping up his efficiency, his touchdown efficiency specifically, I think Aaron Jones might have his best season. He has never finished worse than, he's been a top 12 running back the last 3 years. I guess the year before that he was top 15. So he's been a little nicked up, and he is splitting carries with A.J. Dillon, which is worrisome. But being heavily involved as a pass-catching running back in one of the league's top offenses, where he is the best offensive player to catch the ball behind a great offensive line with a really good run scheme that I already mentioned, are all reasons why I like Aaron Jones a lot. So, did I pay a lot for him? Yeah. Did I know A.J. Dillon would go for 25? I mean, I figured he'd go for something around there. I was hoping I would maybe be able to get that. That did not happen. I am sad about it. But we move on. I wanted a top running back. I did not want to pay $60. I wanted to get someone at a discount who I thought would be a $60 player. So I didn't save much, but I had Aaron Jones as a $60 player, and I got him for $54. So, moving right along. Already 15 minutes in, we've only talked about 2 players. All right, 37 overall, $27. T. Higgins, a guy on Sarah's Bengals who I know she's excited about. Well, I'm going to give you some reasons to be more excited about him. He had his second-year leap, so we've talked about it. Rookie running backs, Second-year wide receivers, third-year quarterbacks. That's usually how the league goes. Now, sometimes there are outliers. I'm going to go into Trey Lance later, just like Patrick Mahomes had an MVP year, Lamar Jackson had an MVP year. That was their second year. But typically, that's how it goes. Rookie running backs, second-year wide receivers, third-year quarterbacks. That's how the breakouts usually happen with the escalator. So T. Higgins already had his breakout, so I'm not really taking someone I'm hoping to break out, unfortunately, like Justin's team. But no, he was very, very good last year. Jamar Chase got a 24% target share. T. Higgins got a 23% target share. He was, what was it? He had a 82 reception, 1,286 yard, and 6 touchdown pace. Now, he was injured towards the beginning of the year, so he only ended up with 1,091 yards and 6 touchdowns on 74 receptions. But still, if he were not on the Bengals, and the Bengals did not have Jamar Chase, if he was, say, I don't know, somewhere like Chicago, or like Atlanta, or maybe like Jacksonville, he would be the number 1 wide receiver. If we're going even further, not me, but Sharp Analytics ranks Bengals wide receivers as the number 1 deepest receiving core in football. Because Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd all were one of only 3 trios of wide receivers to get at least over 800 yards and at least over 60 receptions. So the way I kind of see it is I think T. Higgins is a solid fringe almost wide receiver 1, but really top-end wide receiver 2. I think this is the year he has a maybe close to top 10 receiving year. If Tyreek Hill has top 5, I think T. Higgins is close to top 10, and I got him for $27. I thought that was a very, very good deal. We will go to the next one. So very next pick, 38 overall, $25, DJ Moore. So Moore is entering his second season. I know he's kind of a favorite, I believe, of basically Brian and Justin. I've seen him on one of your teams quite often. But DJ Moore is the only wide receiver in history with 1,100 yard seasons or more than one of those seasons, without at least 5 touchdowns. So what I'm saying is usually when you have 1,100 yards receiving, you get 5 touchdowns or more. He's the only receiver to have more than one of those seasons. He's had 3 of those seasons, 3 years in a row, of at least 1,100 yards and only 4 touchdowns. So, what I'm saying is, I think that is his floor. He is 25. He has had 3 years in a row of 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. Literally, year. Year 1, year 2, year 3. So, I think Baker Mayfield is an upgrade. Not that I'm saying very much, but Sam Darnold is bad. Cam Newton is old and beat up. Baker Mayfield is relatively young, and he's probably the best quarterback DJ Moore has played with in the NFL. Only 66% of DJ Moore's passes last year were catchable thrown passes, and he was still a top 15 receiver, and that was with all the chaos going on in Carolina. So I think he'll be heavily targeted again. He was the 6th highest number of targets last year at receiver. I think he's a solid wide receiver too. I was genuinely surprised to get him at cheaper than T. Higgins. Mostly because of how consistent he's been, and for the fact that there's upside just simply because of the situation. Is Baker Mayfield really going to be as bad as Sam Darnold? I really don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so. And if that's the case, then DJ Moore obviously could be better. So I'm hoping for a little touchdown regression. Maybe we can push those touchdowns to 7, but probably closer to 6. But still, even if we did, that's a top 15 wide receiver. So now I have a top 5 receiver, I think, in Tyreek Hill. Top 10 receiver, I think, in borderline top 10. We'll say borderline, because I really have him at like 11 or 12. But borderline top 10, T. Higgins. At least 15, because he was literally 15th. He was literally 16th last year. The year before he was 15th, and the year before that he was 16th. So at least 16th or 15th best receiver in fantasy, with the obviously chance for more in DJ Moore. So now we'll get in back to the draft strategy, going away from the draft. Sorry this video is so long. So something else I knew during the draft was obviously running backs are going to be very, very difficult to get. They are always difficult to get, but especially in our auction league, it's just a matter of seeing how exactly the draft's breaking out. So during the draft, kind of just sitting there, I now have these 4 players in like the top 40 picks. I've used quite a bit of my budget. So I know basically I got like one more, maybe 2 more like dimes to throw at essentially. And I also knew that up to this point, Robbie's only made 1 pick with Dalvin Cook. And I also now see up to this point, Justin's only made 1 pick in DeAndre Swift. And Stefan's only made 1 pick in Mike Evans. Brian's only made 2 picks in Najee Harris and Michael Pittman Jr. So those are all guys that I'm kind of like, I'm watching the draft. Quite a few of them, especially Stefan and Robbie, are holding a lot of money. So I knew intuitively, it's like, okay, someone, Robbie included, but someone else is probably going to go get a lot of running backs. It's very obvious to me. And in addition to that, I probably I only have so much money I can really spend at this. So either we can wait and try and get a running back later possibly for a deal who we might not be that excited about, because if we are excited about them, it's going to cost us a lot. And if we aren't excited about them, then we'll probably get him, but then I'll miss whatever players are going. So I made the decision basically after that pick with DJ Moore. It's like, I'm just going to go for the next player that I think is at a good deal. If it's a running back, awesome. If it's not, if it's like a tight end or a receiver, because I probably wasn't going to get a quarterback unless it was a really good deal. But if it's a tight end or a receiver, then we're just going to like jump at it and see if we can get him. So the next guy is basically part of that draft strategy. So at 66 overall, $18, Brandon Cooks. I wasn't really counting on Brandon Cooks, as I mentioned before. Not really a big fan of Houston, especially everything with Deshaun Watson. That just disgusts me. But Brandon Cooks has, funny enough, did some research this offseason, been super duper underrated. He's been he's gotten 1,000 yards and been a top 20 fantasy wide receiver 6 of the last 8 years. If you count 4 years ago when he was number 24, 7 of the last 8, he's had a top 24 campaign. So, obviously, very, very consistent. Now, some of those years came with Deshaun Watson, yes. Some of those years, like, obviously he's been traded around, so one of those years was with Tom Brady. One of those years was with Jared Goff. There was the years with Drew Brees. So there's been a lot of movement in Brandon Cook's life. But that also tells me that he's very talented. And it also tells me that if he's still the number 1 on a team, then obviously he's stayed healthy long enough to be able to do all of that. He has high-end efficiency, and he's had a lot of target share. I think he was like at 27.5 is what I found last year, which is a lot. And there's not a whole lot in Houston. I guess, what is it? They took John Mechie III, who I liked coming out of the draft. Yeah, he has cancer. He's out for the season with cancer. They drafted Nico Collins out of Michigan. I know the Michigan guys are kind of high on him. He doesn't know how to run a route to save his life. Like, he kind of just like runs around, but like the actual like skill of running routes, he has no idea how to do that. He just looks like a lost zebra. So hopefully he gets better at that. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about Mike Williams when he came out, and he's not a great route runner by any means, but Keenan Allen's really helped. He's been able to like learn some nuance of like, hey, I don't just run at 100 miles an hour and just like get the ball. That's not what you do to run routes. So, yeah. Anyway, getting off on a tangent. Brandon Cooks is super duper consistent. He's only 28. He stayed super healthy. I'm not really a big believer in Davis Mills, the third round pick out of Stanford last year, but I'll grant you, in those 4 games to end the year, he was pretty good. And even more so than that, the offensive line in Houston finally doesn't look half bad. I mean, Laramie Tunsil's the left tackle, and he's elite, but the rest of the guys are actually somewhat okay. It's not good, but okay is better than what we were dealing with like the last few years, which was just like atrociously awful at the bottom of the league. So, I mean, if Cooks was doing that for a few games, grant you, a few games last year, maybe with Davis Mills, maybe we can keep that up. And if we can't, and he just is what he is, then he's a quality flex guy because he's an underrated wide receiver too. So the way I kind of saw it, I got maybe a top 5 receiver in Tyreek Hill, maybe top 10 receiver in Higgins, top 15, maybe even top 10 with DJ Moore, and then at least a top 25 receiver in Brandon Cooks. All of them with the chance for upside that I'm not buying in, but basically a very high floor. And so that's very different from my traditional drafts. We will get into that in a minute in a few picks, but I just kind of looked at it. I know I was pushing Robbie on Brandon Cooks. I wasn't expecting to get Brandon Cooks, but I had him as a $30 or so player. And once we get to 18 and Robbie doesn't want to bid anymore on him, I'm like, okay. I mean, I will take him. That's really good value for someone I thought is worth a lot more than this. So I was honestly surprised. If Robbie had even pushed me to like 20, I probably would have jumped out. But 18 is, I mean, I know it's only a few bucks, but still, he's a very quality, very consistent player. So 116, $3, Michael Carter, a favorite of Justin, I remember from last year. So what do we know about Michael Carter? Well, as I mentioned before, with all of the coordinators and wide zone, basically offense, Robert Saleh is the head coach of the Jets, who is the defensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan at San Francisco, and he brought over the offensive assistant from Kyle Shanahan to be his offensive coordinator, which is Mike LaFleur, which is Matt LaFleur's younger brother. All of that is to say, I think the Jets are going to, obviously, they did it last year, do a zone blocking offense. What does that mean exactly, and how does that relate to Michael Carter, especially since they drafted Breece Hall? Well, I mean, I like Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is definitely more talented than Michael Carter. I think a lot of people would say that. I mean, hell, what? Breece Hall went for 26 to Justin, so Justin double dipped with the Jets. But that doesn't mean that Michael Carter's bad. He was actually kind of good last year. He averaged 5.3 yards per touch, which was 15th in the league for players with over 100 touches. Once he got the starting job, he was actually pretty good. So, I mean, Week 8 against the Bengals specifically, Sarah may not know this, or maybe she does. The Bengals actually had a pretty good run defense. Michael Carter ran for 172 yards on 24 touches against the Bengals in Week 8 of last year. It was kind of like his coming out party, where it's just like, oh, he's much better than Tevin Coleman and Michael P. Ryan. And I was kind of like, well, yeah, duh. I don't understand why coaches always do this thing where it's just like, oh, we got to bury the young guy because I got to trust the veteran running back. I'm just like, why? The younger guy's better. Just play him. So he was really impressive until he got hurt. But I was paying attention to him. He was obviously someone that I circled based off of these offenses. But I thought, I wasn't expecting to get him, but I bid $3, just kind of assuming it's like, hey, he's worth at least like 10, and nobody else bid on him. So I got Michael Carter. And now he's my starting running back, which was unexpected. I was not hoping for that. I was hoping for him to kind of be like my first bench guy, kind of ease him into the season, because I do like him. I think he will get the pass receptions. I think Joe Flacco now being the quarterback at least for 3 weeks for the Jets helps him a lot. The Jets' offensive line isn't great, but it also means their defense is bad, so they're probably going to be throwing a lot, which means not a lot of running for Breece Hall, but hopefully a lot of pass catching for Michael Carter. So, hoping for good things. But yeah, I see him more as like a flex area kind of guy. I wasn't really counting on him to be my RB2. Getting him for $3 is nice. I would have obviously preferred not to be in such a timeshare. Probably get like a Miles Sanders for 3, a Kareem Hunt for 7, a Melvin Gordon for 7, and Antonio Gibson for 8. But I thought he wasn't a bad deal. I was surprised I got him for that little, and at 116, Dylan was just kind of like bidding up guys he thought could be good backs, and we got him. So, pick 128, $9, Brian Robinson. So, Robinson is who I was kind of wishing on a star for, as you could say. I was looking for an RB2. I had my eye on him for some time. I didn't think, I had seen Robbie get Kareem Hunt. He spent on Travis Etienne. I saw Dameon Pierce go. So by this point, like, what was it? Yeah, Stefan had already taken Rashad Penny. So a lot of the running backs are gone. A lot of the budget is gone. I'm basically kind of like waiting in the weeds, kind of hoping to get this guy. Now, he is the outlier to basically my draft strategy with the offenses. He plays for Washington, whose head coach is Ron Rivera, whose offensive coordinator is Scott Turner, who is the son, a lot of nepotism in the NFL, a lot of nepotism. He is the son of Norv Turner. Norv Turner is famous for being the offensive coordinator for those 26 years ago winning championship Dallas Cowboys. Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator on those Dallas Cowboy teams. So his son is the offensive coordinator on Washington. So what does all of that have to do with Brian Robinson? Well, the Cowboys of old really liked I formation. They really liked to run up the gut. It was less Ron Rivera with like Christian McCaffrey and more Ron Rivera with D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart and Cam Newton. They love to run the ball. They love to keep it like a lot of duo like the Bucs, a lot of old school offense kind of that way. A little bit more West Coast, a lot less zone. So all of that's to say, I thought Brian Robinson had looked really terrific in the preseason. He's a one-cut back out of Alabama. He waited his turn behind Najee Harris, Josh Jacobs, Bo Scarborough, and I'm forgetting Damian Harris. So yeah, all of those guys pretty well thought of. Damian Harris is the starter in New England. Josh Jacobs is the starter in Vegas. Bo Scarborough, I guess he is somewhere. I think he's on a practice squad, but he had a good cup of tea with Detroit. And Najee's obviously the starter in Pittsburgh. So he had to wait his turn. He was a redshirt senior last year, finally got his chance at Alabama, and he looked pretty good with it. I'm not saying he's super great, but he's a between the tackles kind of runner, which is what they like. He's 6'2", 225. And really the biggest thing that I got out of watching him is I thought of Frank Gore, who has always been probably one of my favorite running backs. Frank Gore is just always very consistent, always very patient, and always in really great shape. It wasn't Frank Gore was the most impressive running back. It was the fact that Frank Gore was incredibly gifted at just being able to essentially stay healthy. That's why he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. So that is what I think of Brian Robinson. That being said, like 2 years ago when I drafted Adrian Peterson in the 5th round and he got cut by Washington, or like last year when I drafted Gus Edwards to be my starting flex running back and he tore his ACL. This year, during the draft, Brian Robinson, someone attempted to carjack him and he got shot twice. So, obviously, I don't know how long he's going to be out. That takes some time. He's off crutches today. The swelling's gone down. He's on the non-football injury list, so he's out at least 4 weeks. I imagine he'll possibly be out longer. So I'm not really counting on him till maybe mid-season. I'll have to see how rehab goes. But I liked him coming out a lot. He was the guy I was kind of hoping for. He's a good fit for the scheme. Obviously, he's very, very patient and just a genuinely good human being, which I like having on my team. Like, it sucks to have guys like Deshaun Watson on your team and just, ugh. Like, yeah, winning, but at the same time, ugh. So, I really like him, and I just thought that he would be a good sneaky find to be my RB2 who would like exceed expectations, especially because he was going to be the starter. And now, for the 3rd year in a row, I am missing a running back already. So it happens though. We kind of roll with the punches. Again, we don't root for injuries, but we do prepare for them. So that's why Michael Carter's my starter now. But that's my little story on Brian Robinson. So I do like him. $163, $7 Trey Lance. Right off the bat, I will tell you I overpaid for Trey Lance. I was annoyed. Jalen Hurts went for $6. I was annoyed Lamar Jackson went for $5. I was annoyed that, oh my goodness, Kyler Murray went for $5. I was annoyed that Matthew Stafford went for $2. I was annoyed, like, Aaron Rodgers went for, $3? And here I am, and I'm just like, wait till the end of the draft. Oh, I'm going to get me $1 Trey Lance. That's going to be real good. And of course, someone was camping on him too, because of course, you couldn't just get any of the other guys that I mentioned. If I had known this, I would have gotten Jalen Hurts way back earlier. I would have just spent the money and not worried about Brian Robinson, because I would just be like, oh no, Jalen Hurts is going to break out. I really like him. Or Kyler Murray, I really like his rushing. Or Lamar Jackson. If I'd known all of those guys would be around $5, $6, $7, I would have just done that rather than just like, oh, hey, I'm just going to wait till the end and not fill my right quarterback slot because, maybe I'll get this guy for like $1 and we can just move on. Of course not. Of course that didn't happen. Of course Ryan was waiting and hoping to get Trey Lance, and he had a little bit of money left, and he already had Justin Fields, so he's just like, yeah, no, I'm going to push you. So I paid Trey Lance more than all of those guys. All of them. Which is stupid, and I hate it. Like, I understand he will break out, and I like him a lot, but it's still really annoying that someone else was camping on him, and I'm just like, really? You couldn't just, you already have a guy, you wasted a pick on a quarterback. Just, go somewhere else. Like, why didn't you do this on some of the other quarterbacks that were going earlier? Like, come on. Really? You couldn't. You didn't like $6 Jalen Hurts. You didn't like $5 Kyler Murray. You didn't like $5 Lamar Jackson. But we got to push Dylan on Trey Lance. Like, come on. That was just really, really annoyed me during the draft. That was like the one thing during the draft that just totally annoyed me was having to pay $7 Trey Lance. Because if I didn't get Trey Lance, then I was really stuck because there wasn't another quarterback I liked on the board. But it was just, did not like that at all. So, after that little spiel, what do we like about Trey Lance? Why did we wait for him? So, I like his rushing ability. As I mentioned before, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan offenses. So we went through it like, oh, Aaron Rodgers had a good year. That's Matt LaFleur. Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl with San Francisco. That is Kyle Shanahan. Matthew Stafford just won a Super Bowl. That is Sean McVay. So what do we know? Those guys know how to call an offense. Those guys know how to build an offensive line. Those guys know how to build a run game. So let's follow the coaching. So I went with Trey Lance. Robbie's going to talk about, I think he's like 70 points less expected projections. If I went by projections on like quarterbacks, if I remember correctly, like Lamar Jackson was going to be like the 27th ranked quarterback when I drafted him like 4 years ago, and he was an MVP. And then when Brian drafted Patrick Mahomes, he was going to be like the 23rd, and he was the MVP. I really don't go by projections on quarterbacks. It really is all about just like, what's his offensive line look like, and who is calling the plays. That's really all I really care about. Because like all of the other stuff, like you could be Tom Brady. If you are stuck with like N'Keal Harry and like a hurt Julian Edelman and a retired Gronk in like 2019, you're not going to be good. So yeah, especially when like, I don't know, you don't have a real offensive coordinator because Matt Patricia's back. Like stuff like that just is bad. You don't want that. So we want good play calling. So Trey Lance has got a good offensive coach. He's got really good weapons around him. He has the rushing ability. And personally for me, I mean, I've seen this story before in that 2012 Washington team that we circled earlier. That team went to the playoffs with Robert Griffin III. Now, hopefully Trey Lance doesn't get as injured as Robert Griffin III, but he has a special running ability. He is more of a glider than he is a sprinter like Lamar, but his size, his arm talent, and his elite rushing really, I think, will unlock this San Francisco offense. That's why he's the starter over Jimmy G. I mean, Jimmy G, they went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I don't like Jimmy Pornstar that much, but that's not to say he's a bad quarterback. He's definitely better than a lot. He's, again, been to a Super Bowl. He's won games. He was backing up Tom Brady. Like, he knows something. So, do I think Trey Lance is going to be amazing? I don't know. But I want to roll the dice on him because I just felt like the upside of the unknown was too great to pass up. And that I could get a deal on him, even though I did not get a deal on him because Ryan pushed me for it, which just irritates the hell out of me still. I wish I had gotten Jalen Hurts, honestly, for the price. But that's not to say I don't think Trey Lance isn't without talent. I think he will produce big fantasy numbers, if only because even if we overlook the passing, I'm going to get the rushing. So, yeah, exciting for that. After that a little bit, $1.99, $2, Khalil Herbert. So, I mean, I like Khalil Herbert. I was surprised seeing him last year, who was like a rookie back. I kind of watched, but I didn't know too much about. He looked really good. He was drafted in the 6th round. There were 4 games David Montgomery was hurt, and in those 4 games, he reached at least 70 rushing yards, and he got quite a bit of receiving work, and he was like the 18th best running back in fantasy, and that was with like a bad quarterback. Like Justin Fields was there, and they had no offensive line, and Bill Lazor and Matt Nagy were calling the plays. There was just all sorts of bad stuff surrounding them. So yeah, kind of going back again to that 2012 Washington, the offensive coordinator for the Bears is a guy named Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy was the passing game coordinator last year for Green Bay under Matt LaFleur. Where did Matt LaFleur cut his teeth? Under Mike Shanahan. So, kind of going back to that wide motion offense, I think Herbert is a better fit for this offense because Herbert, funny enough, kind of reminds me of the guy I took earlier, which is Aaron Jones. He's a late-round pick, a guy who just looks super smooth when he runs, and he's just, you don't usually see it until you see it, but he's got the vision. I think David Montgomery, on a holistic view, is more talented, but for this motion offense, I think Herbert's the better fit. So it would not surprise me if Herbert takes that job from Montgomery at some point this season. It would also not surprise me if, kind of like Green Bay is doing, that they start to split up the carries and not use Montgomery as such a workhorse, which is part of the reason why I had Montgomery on my do not draft list. But I was surprised to get Herbert for $2. I was thinking whoever got Montgomery would definitely have to spend on him. And I think by this point, what was it? yeah, by this point, Stefan had already gone in on 6 running backs. He couldn't get any more. So I thought that was, I was surprised. I think he's a really excellent handcuff. I think just on a talent basis, on what I saw last year, he's basically on the level Tony Pollard is for Dallas, where I think the backup is just probably better than the starter. So to get him for $2, I thought was really great. I was really pleased with that. That made me very happy. So after that, 204, $2, Tyler Algier. To be completely honest, I'm kind of thinking of dropping him right now. I mean, I like Algier. He was a 5th-round pick out of BYU. He's super efficient running up the gut. What is it? 276 carries, 1,600 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns. I think he's 224, so kind of like Brian Robinson in that mold, just push it up the gut, kind of classic downhill running back. And honestly, I think he's the best suited running back in Atlanta. I know Arthur Smith likes to run the ball. He reminds me, Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Arthur Smith's the one who pushed for Derrick Henry. So, I'm not saying Algier is the comp to Derrick Henry, but he looks comparable. But even if Atlanta runs the ball a lot, and I think they will, Cordell Patterson, even if he is over 30, is still there. And then they also signed Damian Williams, who I do like, and I think he's on Lauren's team now. But yeah, he was probably who I thought ought to have been the MVP in the Chiefs Super Bowl win. And he's always been a very efficient runner. And the other thing that I really don't like about Atlanta right now is, even if they want to run the ball a lot, and even if I do like Algier, he's the 3rd running back on the depth chart. I'm not even sure if they're going to dress him for the games, which just really befuddles me, to be completely honest. Yeah, I get he's a rookie and you want to trust the guys, and Cordell Patterson had a good year. But, you should also want to get as many good offensive players on the field, because their wide receiving core is just awful. Other than Drake London on Robbie's team, I don't think basically anyone can name any of the receivers on Atlanta. I mean, Kyle Pitts is a tight end, so, Elias Zacharias is, their number 2. It's real ugly. And Arthur Smith really likes to run. But I'm not sure what kind of upside Algier really has if he's having to, triple split carries with these 2 other veterans on the team that isn't going to score a lot. Not to mention Marcus Mariota is also known as a running quarterback for a reason. So there's upside there. I'm betting on the talent more than the situation, though, which is just we went away from, your wide zone offense. Yeah, because at this point I was just, hunting for running backs, and it was rough out there. So after that, we've gone through a few things. Had Tolbert, dropped Tolbert. Had Chark, traded Chark. So we'll just go into $2.28, $1, Jeff Wilson. Another handcuff, again, for Stefan. Funny enough, I like Jeff Wilson. He's going to be the first man off the bench for San Francisco behind Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell also doesn't catch passes. I think he was also injured a lot of last year. And the reason why he fell in the draft was because he was injured a lot. He had Liz Frank injuries twice in college. It cost him 2 years. So yeah, I'm not really counting on Elijah Mitchell being healthy the whole year. And even though I wouldn't really say I'm counting on Jeff Wilson to be healthy the whole season either, Elijah Mitchell's already dealing with hamstring issues. So I think he's going to take the 3rd down back that was supposed to be Trey Sermon last year, but he was bad, so then they gave it to Michael Hasty. Well, Trey Sermon's gone. Michael Hasty's gone. Raheem Mostert's gone. So Elijah Mitchell's the guy, and he's hurt a lot, just like Mostert. Who's to say Jeff Wilson Jr. can't be the guy? I'm not saying he's the most talented guy, but he does 2 things well. He catches passes, and he pass blocks. 2 things Elijah Mitchell does not do well. So, yeah, I think he's going to be the 3rd down back. I think if Elijah Mitchell gets hurt, he's going to have the first shot off the bench. I think he's a very solid player in a very, very excellent and efficient run scheme. Again, run scheme. So Aaron Jones with Matt LaFleur running the Shanahan wide zone offense. We also took Michael Carter with Mike LaFleur running the Shanahan wide option offense. Khalil Herbert with Luke Getsy running the Shanahan wide zone offense. Jeff Wilson with Kyle Shanahan running the wide zone offense. Kind of a theme. Only overlooks were Algier and Robinson. So, I guess we'll kind of go into like what happened since the draft. Brian Robinson's obviously on IR now for me because he's gone at least 4 weeks. We'll see. Gunshot wound. I don't know what structurally his knee looks like. It's going to be some time. So what did I do in the meantime? Well, I dropped Jaleel Tolbert and I traded away DJ Chark. So I guess we'll get into the trade. So I traded away DJ Chark to Andre for Michael Thomas. Why did we do that? Well, Robbie will tell you that Michael Thomas hasn't been good for 2 years, and he's right. Michael Thomas hasn't been good for 2 years. I think in 2020 he was like 40 receptions, 438 yards in 7 games. He's always been like nicked up and not very great for the last couple of years, and that's why Robbie will justify to you. It's like, oh, well, you know, this is why you take Treylon Burks for $5 when Treylon Burks isn't even a starting one. He's like the number 4 receiver on the depth chart on Tennessee right now. It's not good. Whereas Michael Thomas, despite his hamstring injuries, is listed as the number 1. And why is he listed as the number 1? Because before the last 2 years, he had 149 receptions, 1,725 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the fantasy number 1 receiver. And he was also kept his string of 4 straight seasons as being a top 5 fantasy receiver. So, I wanted the upside. I do not plan on starting Michael Thomas anytime soon, mostly because I do not trust Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has been super injured. But if we're going to camp on Josh Gordon from one season back in 2012 for a long time, I'm willing to camp on Michael Thomas for half a season or so, maybe less, depending on how injured he is. I'm not going to be like Hannah last year, just hoping and waiting and hoping and waiting. But he's got a lot of upside. Do I really believe in Jameis Winston? Not really. Is the team going to be different without Sean Payton? Absolutely. But Michael Thomas is still, when he's at his peak, he is, pound for pound, probably the best wide receiver in football. We haven't seen it. He's not anymore. But that doesn't take away from how incredible he was. So I don't really need him. That's part of the reason why I have the other 4 excellent receivers. But I like him because we have seen it before. We've seen him be statistically excellent. We've seen him at the very, very top of his apex. And he's still in his prime. He's only 29. So he could be a top 10 receiver. He could be out in free agency for all I know on my team. I'm willing to roll the dice on that just because of the upside. He is just purely an upside play for me because I feel like I can take that risk. And I don't know. I don't really need the depth at wide receiver, so why not? It's not like I can hoard more than 6 running backs. You got to fill it up with something. So, yeah. Another guy I picked up, and I was surprised at this. I'm going to mention this specifically. I was surprised. At 168, Matt got George Pickens for $1. I was annoyed because I had just taken Trey Lance, and I was basically like kind of capped out and hoping on running backs. George Pickens was a guy that I wanted. Like, I very, very badly wanted. He looked so good in the preseason. And seeing Matt get him, I was just like, maybe I can like trade for him later. And lo and behold, Matt has dropped him, and I have picked up George Pickens. George Pickens has looked really, really terrific in preseason. Now, that's still preseason, but he missed most of last year on Georgia's national championship winning team with a torn ACL. Yet, he was still a second-round pick. Just on a talent basis last year, I mean, we had 6 wide receivers drafted in the top 18. I would say George Pickens was probably around the top 1 or 2 if he had been healthy. He's only had 2 drops in his entire college career. He's only 21. He's 6'3". He has like a 4.3 run speed, and he's already taken a starting job on the Steelers. So yeah, I really like his long-term upside. I think the Steelers are the number one developer of wide receivers. Like, you just go back and check Antoine Randall, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Wallace, like receiver after receiver, all these guys. Deontay Johnson's another one now. Steelers are really, really, really good at developing receivers. I think George Pickens got a lot of talent, and the fact that Mike Tomlin trusts him enough to put him in the starting lineup already is really, really exciting. So I'm really happy that I got George Pickens. I don't know what he'll do. We'll cap it at 700 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns, but it could be more. He could be a breakout rookie receiver. And, boy, this is almost an hour. The last one, Jordan Mason. Maybe I'll cut Jordan Mason soon. He doesn't even have a blurb on ESPN, to be honest with you. So what do we know about Jordan Mason? Well, here's what I know. Usually when I look at backs, when I watch preseason, I'm watching to see their vision and their contact balance. And what I mean by that is, if you don't know in terms of vision, it's just being able to like read the hole, see the hole, follow the blocking, understand the concept being run. And contact balance, just straight, just like how low to the ground can they get? What's their balance look like? How can they basically accelerate into the hole and like weave their way in and out? And the most impressive running back I saw in preseason was this guy, Jordan Mason. So first 2 years at Georgia Tech, he was a starter. He was all ACC. He was probably going to be like a first 3-round pick. But then they got a 5-star recruit at running back, and he took a back seat to him the last couple of years. That guy is Jahmyr Gibbs, who is now the number 1 starting running back at Alabama, and will probably be a first-round pick in this upcoming year. Super duper talented guy. But yeah, Mason got kind of lost in the shuffle because of that, consequently. But when I watched him, they're just guys that you just like see and you just kind of like, you just know intuitively, it's like, oh, he's got it. When I watch him, that's what I think. His ability to just like get the ball and be able to almost like intuitively understand leverage of where the offensive line are going, where the flow is going, and just like push up field very quickly on one cut. Reminds me a lot, and this is a very far out comparison, so I don't actually expect it to get there, but it reminds me a lot of when I first saw Arian Foster for the Texans. You just see it. It's kind of like the way I feel when I saw like Aaron Jones. They'll just be like a guy every couple years or so. Like, I just see it. Like, I really like Zach Moss, and you can give me a hard time for Zach Moss. But like, I like Zach Moss because I always thought that he had really good rushing ability and he was very efficient. Now he's buried in Buffalo and he's been off injured and it hasn't really worked out. So that kind of sucks. But the same way I thought about Aaron Jones, the same way I thought about like Alvin Kamara, the same way that I thought about like when I watched Justin Jefferson at LSU, and I was like, oh, he's just got it. It's kind of like I just watch him and he's just like, Jordan Mason's, he's just got it. He was the best running back in San Francisco this preseason and in training camp. Like, oh, Elijah Mitchell's so good. Elijah Mitchell's fast. He's not very good at reading, his blocking or has vision. He's just fast. Jeff Wilson I like because he can like pass block and pass catch, but he doesn't really have a whole lot of talent for like running the ball. That's more the scheme. They got Tyrion Davis Price. I think he's on Brian's team. He's okay. I mean, he does all three somewhat well, which is why they drafted him in the 3rd round, but he just doesn't have this decisiveness. He's almost kind of hesitant, especially when he hits the hole, which isn't real great. It's kind of like what I thought when Trey Sermon last year. I like Trey Sermon, but he just looked so tentative. He wasn't sure what to do, and he would try to always bounce it outside, and you couldn't bounce it outside all the time. You got to just cut up field and go. Whereas, like, Mason they didn't even give him a chance to make the team. He was like the 8th string running back coming into camp. He was like an undrafted free agent. And they didn't re-sign Raheem Mostert because of him. They let JaMychal Hasty go to Jacksonville because of him. They cut Trey Sermon and let him go to Philadelphia because of him. He's on 3rd string on the depth chart with Tyrion Davis-Price. It would not surprise me if by the end of the season, Jordan Mason is the number 1 leading rusher on the 49ers. Because when I watch him, I just think he has the most talent. It's just that simple. And his ability his vision is what really caught my eye. So, if nothing else, that's what I see. Now, I could be wrong. Obviously, I've been wrong before. I own that. But I was willing to gamble on him because, again, it's San Francisco. Their running backs seem to get hurt all the time. They were cycling through guys last year and the year before. I think at some point this year, Mason will get his chance. And I think once he does, he will not let go of that job. So that's why I picked him up. I don't know when that'll be, and it's going to kind of suck to carry him through bye weeks, so we'll see how long I can stand to do that. But just on purely from a talent perspective for me, I think he's the best running back in San Francisco. And that's why I picked him up. So, all that being said, this is very long. I don't know if any of you will watch it this far, but if you did, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to give myself a B minus. I'm right around where Stefan and Mac are. I think my team has a little more upside than both of them. But I also have a bigger hole. I don't know what I'm really going to do at RB2 if Michael Carter doesn't work out and Brian Robinson's still hurt. So they certainly, I have a higher floor receiver, but I'm going to have a harder time trading as well unless Michael Thomas does become something, or Jordan Mason does become something, or one of the guys on my bench becomes something, just because I don't have as many horses as Stefan to move. So I think I can make more noise in the playoffs than either of them just because of my wide receivers, and I think I have elite talent in Aaron Jones and Trey Lance and Tyreek Hill. But, I could be wrong, so we shall see. But yeah, I'm going to give myself a B minus. I thought I had a good draft. I'm kind of tired of my RB2 getting hurt every single year. So if this doesn't work out, considering we tried this a couple years ago and I didn't make the playoffs, and we did this again last year, and we slid into the 8th seed in the playoffs. If this doesn't really work this year, we might just go RB heavy again next year, because this is dogging me, man. I'm just I ought not be struggling to get into the playoffs. I know fantasy better than that, but I just keep getting super injured, and it just sucks. So we shall see. But I'm excited to find out. I'm excited about my team, honestly. I'm more excited, funny enough, probably about a lot of my bench guys than my starters. But I am excited to see Tyreek in Miami, and I think he'll be big breakout. And I'm really, really excited to have Trey Lance on my team and to have Aaron Jones back. I missed Aaron Jones. It sucked watching Charlie waste him for years. That really was not fun either. But again, I think the most annoying thing was paying for Trey Lance. I'm probably never even going to forget that just because I'm so annoyed by it still. It's really, I had to pay this much considering these other guys went for this cheap? Ugh. All right, that's it. Whenever Ryan figures out his team, maybe I'll make a video for him depending on when that is, but he doesn't even have a starting lineup yet, so I can't promise that. Up to him.